Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Through the Window podcast. You're joined with me, Ben.
And me, Dan.
And today we have a very, very gracious guest by the name of Becks Beere.
What a wonderful name.
Yes.
She's a wonderful person too. And we're very appreciative that she came down to Swindon Town. She's not actually from round here, is she, Ben?
No, she's from Bournemouth, originally from Scotland.
Wow, Scotland, is it? Yes, we dive into her journey from being a single mother all the way to owning a massive business. Ben, tell me a little bit more about that. What can the viewers expect?
Yeah, so she's really cool. She went from being a single mum to now in a company of 66 people running it. She goes to China all the time for work, travels, does a really cool life, and has a cool lifestyle.
She did. You did a fantastic job today on diving into her entrepreneurial space.
Dan.
Whilst I kind of sidetracked a little bit too often about hummus. But what more would you expect? We also spoke about her time in the US. She went over there and she hung out with loads of cowboys, as well as, like Ben said, going to China 16 times. I mean, her passport must be stacked.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Telling
stacked.
me.
What else did we talk about, Ben?
You mainly brought it back to food and exercise a few times because that's your safe points. But yeah, we hope you enjoy the podcast, and please make sure to put your headphones on and look through the window.
This is Through the Window, powered by Ottr.
Well, welcome to the Through the Window podcast. I had to look up at the screen because I didn't actually know the name of it, but this is a brand new podcast that we've created. Dan, us at Ottr.
We've changed it. You would have been coming on to Ottr Stories, which is our old thing, but it's gone now.
We don't want old things, do we?
Out with the old, in with the new. So we're in the new studio. This is our new podcast studio, and you are our first guest.
I know, this is very exciting. We're breaking the seal, as it were.
And we've broken out of the Shire as well. You know, usually we'd only do people in Wiltshire, but you're very much not from Wiltshire.
I'm not even in a Shire, I'm from Dorset.
Where is that?
But I'm not actually from Dorset, I'm from Scotland, but, you know, it's all over the place. Go south until you hit really subtropical weather, and then you'll know you're there. It's just like the happy place.
Did you have the lightning just a couple of days ago? Did you get hit by that?
I didn't. Where was I a couple of days ago? I was in London. I did a half marathon, so...
You weren't competing?
No, I was watching. You've seen me. I don't... Like, I run, but I don't run. I'm not going to bore you with running shoes and running.
Oh.
I don't... I'm jogging. I jog.
Lightly.
A
bit like me, Dan.
Yeah. Ben has this funny...
Do you run, Dan?
I used to.
Does Dan run?
Yeah, I used to run like a little bit, but not so much anymore.
Little bit.
Yeah.
62 miles in one day, wasn't it?
Yeah, 100k, but...
Do you used to bore people about running? Because that's what I found is runners are really intense.
Yeah, a bit like vegans.
Oh, yes.
They just get
monosyllabic.
It's just too much. Was I boring as a boring runner? I wasn't too.
I think because of the scale of it, it was quite interesting actually. Because you were going out and a practice run was like 55 kilometres, and I'm thinking like that's Heathrow. That's such a long distance. It's not like you're going to go out and do like a 5k training session. It's like okay, mate, everyone can do that. It's like you're doing like 11 times that.
Yeah.
So that was interesting, and to hear about how you're, I guess, conditioning your body. But no, you don't really. You're not like me. I'm the one that over talks about stuff. You just, if anything, it's like blood from a stone with you.
Yeah, I don't like to give too much. Hold it back, you know.
That's so mysterious.
Oh,
yeah.
Dark
Mysterious Dan, they call me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dark Mysterious Dan.
Yeah.
People actually call him that. Yeah, I know people that call you that. My
Behind
mum mainly.
Ben's mum. Yeah. She can never get anything out of me.
Right, Becks, who are you? Tell us about yourself.
Oh, God, we've gone deep.
Yeah.
Who am I? That's a big, deep question. Okay. Becks Beere, and I am, who am I? I'm probably first and foremost a mum, an entrepreneur, like we've discussed, a karaoke singer. Absolutely love that. Country dancer. What else am I? Who am I? I'm just a girl at the end of the day doing my best and really enjoying my life.
What do you do day to day? What's your work, your craft?
Okay, so my work is, I've got a couple of different businesses, but my main one is a design and brand development company, and we work with big global retailers to develop private label and licensed brand promotional ranges of products. And that can be anything from craft to gift to stationery to party to homeware, venturing into pet and toy and things like that. So, yeah.
Have you got an example of something that you've done that people might
be aware of?
Yeah.
So if you go into Hobbycraft right now, you can see all the Jules fabrics and the Jewel range of products. And we've partnered with Jules. That's an exciting project that we've done exclusively and launched in Hobbycraft. Anything Kirsty Allsop, so work with Kirsty. Bit with Patrick Grant. We do a ton with Disney. And we do top end to bottom end. So we'll work with an Aldi with volume value. We can work with a Cath Kidston or a John Lewis or something like that. It really does depend on the customer. So yeah, you can generally go onto a high street shop and find something that we've produced.
And how many employees do you have?
Oh, it's just gone up again because Nicholas started today, so he's our newest. We always seem to have a Monday new starter, so we've got 66.
Wow.
I know, which is crazy.
So how did you get from inception
to
something like, because that's such a different league. So how did you start it?
Yeah, so I had a company when I was a young mum, and I learned all the lessons and it failed abysmally. I then got headhunted and then came into another business that had just sold to a VC, and that was fantastic. Learned loads in 3 years, helped turn it around, and then just went, I want to not make other people money. I want to create an environment, a work environment that feels really in line with my values. So I left that business in 2012 and set up what was originally a VEC. And yeah, it was out of my house and my garage. There was no windows. I think the first thing we bought was a window. My first employee, Matt, I bought him some slippers because it was freezing cold in my garage. He'll laugh about it even now. But yeah, so it's kind of come from just a couple of us just knowing how good we were at product development and brand development and understanding what customers and retailers wanted to really grow in that business. I had seed capital from a couple of really cool guys in Holland, which eventually paid back and bought out finally during COVID, weirdly enough. So yeah, it's the weirdest journey. And that, like, it sounds like a straight line, but as you guys know, it's never a straight line. So many highs, so many lows. It's like a pinball machine, really. Did
you ever predict it would be to the size that it is now, or was that ever the goal when you set it up?
The goal was never turnover, and the goal was never people. The goal was to create something that I felt really secure, that gave security to weirdly women in business, particularly, especially young mums. Now I'm evolving that as I'm looking at aging women and parents and going, actually, there's a bigger thing over the horizon. It's to do with the menopause, but we won't get into that. But It's about like working environments for human beings that really want to feel fulfilled and have an amazing career. That was always the goal. And I feel proud that during COVID, like, we really looked after our people and we've built from there. So I think I've realized the goal. Now it's about creating something bigger and better. Like, we're building a new building, including a creche and a puppy creche too, because, the little furry friends matter too. And it's just about what more can I do? So I never look at the turnover. The turnover facilitates really the goal.
The goal
which is
of
the
it.
People. Yeah.
Do you find that if you actually want to be a good entrepreneur, the goals have to constantly change? Or is it something that you realize stuff changes over time as and when you go? Like, for example, in our business, we made a business plan the first 3 months or whatever, and I don't think we've looked at it since. It's just been a piece of paper that has just been, if anything, it just confines you to what you have to do or shouldn't do. But I think as long as you both understand what you want to create and what the purpose of the business is, that's enough to lead you.
Yeah.
Have you found that your goals have, because I know you said that when you first started the company, it was for mums and business and stuff like that, and that's now changed to people. What was the change there? What made you realize that? Yeah.
Well, number one, well done you for having a business plan, because I never had one of those. But I always had a purpose. You talk about purpose. I think you're really clear what your purpose is, and you will find that the goals go along as long as they align to your purpose and your values. If you're really clear, those things weirdly don't change. But how you get there and who you get there with does. And that's the fun part, like adapting. I think entrepreneurs, really cool ones that I respect, they just adapt to circumstance, they adapt to people issues, but fundamentally their values, who and how they want to do business, that doesn't change. And I would say that's my way, is my values. Anyone who's met me, who knew me in all my previous iterations, would say I am exactly the same person. So yeah, you adapt. And that's the thing I'm finding is we're very good at adapting. I think I respond at a pace that some people can't keep up with. And I've built a really good team around me that can absorb some of that velocity, how they describe it. But they can then interpret that and then bed that in a pace that the rest of the business can manage. But yeah, I've found that I can move quickly. I can see opportunities and I can see them actually over the horizon before they're coming. And but that's part of the appeal for me. So yeah, adapt.
I'm going to drop a really open-ended question on you now. What challenges do you think you face as a woman in business?
Oh, there's tons. Like, again, you said challenges, so I'm allowed to name more than one. I think, firstly, we've had discussion, you do question yourself a lot more. Because and we're going to speak very candidly, aren't you? Because as a woman, you do have strong drives and feelings and vulnerabilities. And I always was led to believe that they were my Achilles heel, that I was emotionally driven, and that I used to always feel like I should apologize for that, and that was somehow a weakness. As I've aged, only a little bit, though, only a little bit. As I've gotten older, I've realised actually it is my superpower. Being emotionally connected to my goals and my values and being able to have empathy with people actually is what makes me good at what I do. But I think you can often second guess yourself. I mean, I was raised to always second guess myself. I had quite an unusual upbringing in that regard. And so as a woman, I always had to defer to men to make decisions. And I just had to unpick that and unlearn that as I've gone. And also and I see it in the women that we employ, is that give them the confidence to, number one, ask for a raise, have ambition, know how good they are. They just all come with all of these fallibilities. And I see it, and I see a bit of myself mirroring that. So you always never think, oh, I've got this. Whereas if I talk to my guy counterparts, they just are so self-assured. It's fantastic, and I like it, and I admire it. But it's not something that I've ever felt comfortable either saying or feeling.
Do you think that's something then it's less to do with genders and more about how we're raised?
No, I do think there is a gender play. I remember reading that Lean In book, I think it's Sheryl Sandberg, and she was also saying that she did this study, and she took like a CV, and it was a female CV, and she gave it to two different people, like groups of people, and they changed the name on the CV to a boy's name and then a girl's name, and asked them to describe how this person would be as a boss. When it was a guy's name, they're like, oh, assertive, decisive, all of these things. And it's a Harvard study. If it was a female, oh, emotional, irrational, like up and down. And it was shown to say that we have a gender bias. They can have the same character traits, but one is portrayed more as being like, I don't know, emotional and irrational and like, volatile.
Completely different.
Yeah. So my experience, obviously I don't employ other people that have had the same upbringing as me. And you do see that gender divide in some ways. And it's wonderful in a way to be able to help facilitate a more equal playing field. But
yeah. It's funny, you said a lot, you've used the emotion word a lot in what you've said, and I completely get that, because the way you describe men in business is exactly how I am. I'm just very self-assured. I rarely ever doubt myself. Whereas my partner, Amber, she is really empathetic, and she, like, if she has to make a decision, she'll think about everyone involved in that decision before she makes it. Whereas I'm just like, how can I get from A to B the most efficient way? And I'll think about the other people after, not because I'm a dick, but because it's just how my brain's wired.
Super logical.
And I think, as we maybe value that trait more in business, but we shouldn't. And I think the world is changing, I think, especially in the business world, to be more people-led. It's like the whole, when people went from like being, don't put money into customer service, and then everyone went super customer service focused, and they started making way more money because they kept customers on. So it's all about people at the end of the day. So I think I think, well, I say that, but I'm so young in business, so it's really hard for me to have a overall scope on it. But it seems the world is changing to value empathy more than we used to in business. Do you think that's true?
I think so, probably because you've got more women in the workplace too.
Yeah.
And there is a natural injection of it, and everyone's like, well, how do we work with this? And then also the understanding and the light of mental health and mental health after COVID and during COVID. I think everyone's gone, okay, we have to start looking at human beings less as machines, which is how industry and employment used to be, and more holistically is they do have family lives and they do want more from life, and it isn't about going and earning and doing. And I guess when it was a very male orientated workplace, that worked. That really, really worked. But what's interesting is I don't think there should be a swing all the way over to emotion, because the wonderful thing of the way you describe you is that's so essential, that logical, clear thinking. Is it divergent and convergent? Or anyway, those are so complementary, and that's what I also find is you have to find complementary ways of thinking, and it can't just be one way or the other. And so I'm really lucky that I do work with people similar to you, and I find them the most challenging, I find them the most intriguing, and together you get the best results. So you don't want to go all one way, and it can't be all either my way or your way, but together it's a really lovely mix. I think that's the thing, is about introducing both sides and not being just one-sided. Do you
have other, because obviously it's just you now as the kind of the sole owner of the business, but you have counterparts, people that you work with who are the opposite to you? Because I think Ben and I are very different in that way, that he is very logical and straight talking and will get the job done instantly, whereas I'm a little bit more reserved and like, okay, yeah, maybe we'll take this approach and we'll go a bit slower, but it will be like my way.
Dan's the female.
Yeah, I am, essentially. Yeah, absolutely. So who do you kind of refer to in your business?
So I have two other directors in the business, one of which, Ed, is my FD, and so he joined like 4 and a bit years ago, and he's a bit like you. He's methodical, he takes his time, he likes to consider. I mean, I'm like this, pace. So he kind of buffers that, and it's really good. But there is a third dynamic, and that actually is our commercial director, James, who weirdly enough is also my big brother. And I remember when Ed and I were looking at who the commercial directors, we interviewed loads of people and it didn't seem like a fit. But when James was doing some consultancy, he just is the right fit. And with Ed and him, I mean, they were voted the cutest couple at our Avec Awards. I mean, and they are such a cute couple. But Ed and James complement each other in the way they'll look at things. And then they both are very complimentary of thee. And actually the three of us, we can be in our exec meetings and it can get very robust in our conversations, and there's a respect there, but there isn't a yes. There is a challenging, a thoughtful disagreement, all of those things, and it's fantastic when you know those other people care. Like I'm sure you two care deeply for each other in the best possible way.
I do, Dan.
But that's what makes a difference, because you can trust each other to just go, I'm going to hold you accountable. I am safe to disagree with you. Let's get to the best result. So I do have that, absolutely, and they think differently to me. Yeah, they're boys.
Judging on what you said then, this is something I thought as well. Obviously, like the normal landscape for relationships is male and female.
Yeah.
Do you think that having businesses going forward that have a female co-founder and a male co-founder would actually could potentially be stronger than any other setup because of the normal attributes they both bring and how they both contribute? Do you think that's going to be something that comes in?
It depends what their dynamic is.
Yeah.
If they've got a relationship with each other, that could get very volatile, and that could play out in the business.
That's why we start dating down, isn't it?
It kind of makes it sticky. I can see that. I can see the distance. Build bridges and mend those wounds. It's just, yeah. I don't know. Is the answer to that?
Yeah.
I think it's
a
definitely worth.
question.
Yeah, it's definitely worth having different personalities. So I profile everyone in the business, and we go and we look for differences. That's probably the main thing. Whether it's girls, boy, whoever, just work with people different to you, and not be scared of that. Differences are great. I definitely champion that.
What's something that I think a question I really wanted to ask you because of who you are, again, referring back to my fiance, is she has a lot of self-doubt and she doesn't trust herself, and she yearns for the attribute that I have in that sense and wants to have more of that. And it seems as much advice I give her, it doesn't seem to help. And I think the advice probably is because I'm a man giving a woman advice on how to do something. It's not really chinking the armor. So what would you say to someone like that who is female, who does have that self-doubt critique that a lot of women do? Is there like a book that you've read or a way to think, or is it literally about unlearning and relearning your own personality in that sense?
There's books, volumes and volumes. The first thing is it's really hard to hear it from your partner. Like when you've got work to do on you, it's really hard especially to hear it from a partner who's got the attributes that you kind of alerted. So you're not like, it's not that you're not getting through. It's just you're the hardest person for her to hear that from. It's probably easier for her to hear it from mentors or other women who've had a similar journey, because she's looking at you and going, but we're so different, so you don't understand me. If she met women that had been on a similar journey, she'd probably feel a lot more like, okay, we're speaking parallel. So I would say probably find a mentor and someone that she can talk to that she feels very similar and that has been on the same journey, would probably be able to get through. But ultimately, we all have to make our own peace with ourselves and. And
it's
one
a
thing
personal journey, isn't it?
And no one can do it for you, and you can't ever just go, I want to be like that. I used to write everything down, so I would write my feelings, my intents and everything down, and then I'd start to trust my gut, because I went, I was right, and I would write and reflect, and that's when I started to realize, oh no, my gut's right. I second guess my gut, and so I started journaling as a way of being able to actually pinpoint all the parts of my life that went, oh yeah, I'm okay. So that's the book that means the most, is my journal.
Yeah, that's nice.
From your childhood, were you always kind of business folk? Were you a bit of an entrepreneur as a youngster, would you say?
Not at all.
Growing up, like, at what point did you suddenly think, actually, I can do this?
So I've always had a self-belief. My father would have always said that about me. He's always like, I don't know where she gets it from, but I've always just been gobby, confident. I just kind of have always been very gung-ho. I'm one of 7 kids, so you have to kind of stand out. So I was the oldest daughter, 2 older brothers, and so you're always fighting for space, aren't you? So I think I grew up that way, always looking for like, hey, I'm here, hey, I'm here, even though there's 4 other kids behind you. So as I got older, where did it went for a long time? So when I was a very young mum, postnatal depression, like I was married, I didn't have any purpose, I was just have babies. And I remember just going, I don't even feel like myself. And they were very dark days, because I was like, what's the point? Like, I should feel fulfilled because I'm married and I've got kids, and that's everything that should fulfill me, but I feel like a shell of myself. So I think when I first started my first business, which was with a scrapbooking distribution company, I just had my 3rd child, and I just needed to do something that was me. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was like an outlet and an absolute drive, and it was such a strong drive. I just had to do something that was me, that was not about babies and children and keeping a house. So that's kind of where it came from, and then I realized I was very good at it. And I think that's also the other thing is I never went to university. I got my A-levels, they were horrific. And I got on a plane and then went to live in the States for a while and just explored. I've always had an adventurous spirit, and I've just never had fear. So I never feared failure, weirdly enough. Still don't.
It's a good trait to have.
I don't know where that came from either. I've just never feared it. So yeah.
Talking of your time in the States, you were saying earlier that you'd be a country dancer or a country singer.
I'd love
Tell us about that. Tell us about your time in the States. Why did you go there? What age was you?
So I was 18, and I was raised, and boys went on missions and girls just waited around to get married. And I was like, I don't want to wait. I've always been impatient. So I went as a nanny and lived in Phoenix, Arizona. And oh my goodness, it's like cowboy country, and I just fell in love. I resisted cowboy music for the longest time.
Everyone always does.
They resist, but resistance is futile, as we've learned.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Gareth Brooks song came on. It was the dance. That was it.
What song?
The dance. You've got to listen to it. The words are very, very good, very poignant. One of my favourite country music songs. And that was it. I was smitten, but just got asked out by a lot of cowboys and their hats and their boots and their trucks, and going dancing with them, and they throw you over their heads. And I don't know, there's just something very... when you're a girl.
Can you explain like what it's like when you're over there? So are you in like a bar? Are you in is it like one of those like roadside ranches where you see like the things tumbleweed going down the road? Someone pulls up in a
hay
big
bale
truck.
seats.
Is anyone on horses?
Yeah, I went horse riding.
But do they ride horses to the bar?
So I didn't drink, and I never went to a bar. Can you believe it?
So where did you meet the people?
So you weirdly went to a restaurant, and someone was serving us, and he was a cowboy, and he slipped me his number. I mean, this is cool, right?
Yeah,
so good.
Cool.
And then he comes and picks you up in his pickup truck. Yeah, just people. They were very bold. That's what I found. You could walk on the street, and maybe I looked weird, but they would approach me and say, "Hey, can I take you out?" And I was like, "Yeah." So yeah, it was just lovely. They're very bold.
Did they love it because you were British as well?
Oh yes.
No.
Yeah.
And did you play on that? You had the accent. Did you put the accent on a little bit more?
I don't know.
He's not going to admit it.
Didn't need to though, really.
Well, I didn't need to, but you do. But I was never Mary Poppins. Like, they're like, "Oh, you're a nanny, like Mary Poppins." And I was like, well, not really, but close. And I've never met the Queen. They all ask.
Really?
They all ask.
They genuinely
Yes.
think there's a possibility.
Yes. And do you live near London? Oh, no, I don't. At that point, I lived in Sheffield, so definitely not near London. But I loved it. And the thing is I've been on planes, this 2-man plane with someone. I remember someone driving all the way down from Montana, come pick me up and take him back to his ranch in Montana. Like, cowboys do really cool stuff. They're just really grrr.
What was the pull to the States for you then back then? Or was it just something different?
Escaping.
Yeah.
Like, I'd been raised in Britain. My parents lived abroad. I'd been at boarding school. I'd done my A-levels, and I just wanted to get out of the country. And then there was this au pair exchange program, so it didn't cost me anything. It was going to be a cool experience. And I was a bit like, well, what's the worst that can happen, right?
Yeah.
And so went over and just had the most amazing experiences.
What brought you back?
The visa ran out.
Right.
Also, baked beans. I needed baked beans on toast.
It's not got it over there.
Not the really good ones.
Yeah.
No.
Not
they
Heinz.
put barbecue.
Not
stuff
brand
in
name,
them.
sorry.
No.
Yeah.
No brand name.
Sorry,
I didn't even need I just needed baked beans on toast. First thing I ate when I got home.
What do you think you'd miss in the States if you went?
Marmite. No, I'm not a massive fan of Marmite. I don't. I'm neither hate it or love it. I'm just kind of in between, which apparently is quite impossible.
No, yeah,
but I'm one of those guys. Yeah. Do they have hummus in the United States?
I mean, this is back in the day. Thanks, Dan. I'm trying to think.
It's quite old food, isn't it?
Yeah, but I don't think I ever had it.
Do you love it now?
It's one of my favourite things to eat.
Me too. Perfect.
Like, I don't even need anything with it. Just
That's
your
what you're
finger
looking for.
straight in the tub.
Yeah.
Oh, you said spoon. I said
I'm going
finger
too. All right. We're there.
You didn't want to go. You didn't want to admit
Lick
your
the
full
lid.
shame, did you? There's a spoon involved.
This is one of our main questions of the podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
About hummus?
What's your favourite type of hummus?
Ooh, it's just the really, like a whole plate full of just full virgin oil, just normal. Do not put any flavour. Do not mess with that perfection.
Yes.
As long as it's super smooth and silky. Like, the best hummus I've ever had is in Jerusalem. Oh, they know how to make hummus.
You went to the sauce.
Yeah.
Oh,
my,
God.
and then nothing else kind of comes close.
The hummus canal, isn't it? It comes from. It all comes from a river out there.
What's your favourite
So
type of
good.
hummus? You've actually changed. You said this weekend that you have gone off your favourite. This is breaking news.
Well, for the longest time, Becks, hold on to your hat here.
Here we go,
It
Cowboys.
was caramelised onion,
Ooh.
and now it's red
Weird.
pepper.
It was.
Okay.
But it's no longer red pepper anymore.
What is it now, Ben?
It's back to caramelised onion.
We've
What
gone back.
changed?
I know, this is a roller coaster of
Flip-flopped.
emotions. Red pepper just became too sour for me. I couldn't hack it.
You sure it wasn't gone off?
It's a possibility. No, it was brand new.
Yeah.
But, like, red pepper's quite nice and sweet. Like, I do like the odd red pepper.
Caramelised onion just has that nice twang to it that you look for on a Sunday afternoon.
It's a bit too oniony for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's going to recur for a while. Amber's in trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She's not. She prefers red pepper.
Her is red pepper.
Yeah,
She actually got you onto red pepper, wasn't it?
She did, and off it
Just
almost
so you know,
immediately.
that this was quite subtle.
And what's yours? Yours
Mine-
is classic.
Mine's classic or Moroccan topped.
Ooh.
Yeah. Oh, it's just so good.
It is good.
It is good.
Bex, we have a list of questions that we like to ask guests on this new podcast. So you can see where this is going.
Yeah.
Should we keep the hummus one? I think we should keep that for future.
Yeah, do you like the
reckon?
hummus one?
Yeah,
Yeah, because there
are.
are. I think so. I think it is a decisive. Like, you're either in or you're out.
Yeah, I think as well. Another question we could do is your favourite sandwich. It doesn't have to be a sandwich either. You could
Yeah.
Make it magical.
You could become a wrap if you want.
It could. See,
Or
the
a
thing is,
baguette.
is
You
being
could become a
celiac-
wrap if you want.
Yeah, being celiac, I don't do wraps and I don't
know.
really do sandwiches.
So
So
what
I
do you do
think
for
this
lunch?
is just burgers without the
Naked
buns.
burgers.
Yeah,
Should we-
and
yeah,
chips.
naked burgers.
So this is the thing: is that's going to be a bit decisive. That question too.
Yeah. Oh, God, I've really.
You're going to
shouldn't have
really
brought that up.
exclude people here.
Yeah,
I'm
it
sorry,
feels
I
it
shouldn't have
feels
done that.
like it's just
It's not fair to
all
the
about
celiacs.
the
You've
bread
targeted
people.
Becks here.
All right. Your favourite carbohydrate lunch? That's
Potato
kind of
waffles.
saying. Well, I'm trying to get onto sandwich, but without saying about bread. Potato waffles are
Potato
the best,
waffles
yeah.
and
What about
mayonnaise.
potato smiley faces?
No, not as good.
No?
There's not enough potato. There's too
True.
much out.
Yeah, but they smile at you until you eat them.
And
Sad
then they're like,
times.
"Oh, it's disappointing. There's not enough potato."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Okay,
Sorry,
But you
anyway,
can keep the sandwich
I
one.
diverted
Just what
massively
you
there.
do is you ask people ahead of time, like, "Do you eat bread?"
Be prepared, yeah.
Yeah. Do you like a nice tortilla wrap?
I'm going to ask you about 2 different days, Becks.
Okay.
Do you want to answer your best day or your worst day first? Do you want to lead with positive or end with positive?
They're all good, aren't they? Because you learn. So I'm happy
Okay.
with best day.
You want to go best day first?
Best day.
Okay, what was
On
your
the
best
spot
day?
as well.
Best day.
You can get this, obviously. You can give your answer and then reflection and be like, oh, actually, it should have been this. That's fine. But top of your head, what comes to you when someone asks you that question? Apart from today.
Like, let's exclude today because that's a given.
Mm-hmm.
Today is a wonderful day.
It is. It's a lovely Monday. I'm weird. No, I think that this probably is for all the really very strange reasons because it's a culmination of life. So best day was probably when I got all the shares to the business and finally realised I didn't owe anyone anything and I'd earned everything that I'd got. Like, that's a big deal for me. And it was huge. I remember just sitting there and shaking, physically feeling quite shaken and very emotional. And, and taking that in and going, that's huge. That's huge. So I think that was the best day because it was like, that's my entire life put into something and someone said, no, you've earned that. That's yours now. You owe no one anything.
What did that feel like?
It was a feeling of elation, a feeling of a bit of shock, a feeling of like bewilderment, and also a bit like responsibility. Like I realized it was all on me. So it was all these amazing feelings, but also without, is there a word for pride without being super proud, but kind of like just wow.
Accomplished.
Yeah. Like, oof. Yeah. I think that was pretty big and amazing.
Did you woke up that day knowing that this was about to happen as well? Like, it was in the diary. It was.
Yeah, it was in the diary. We were just waiting, and we'd been working towards it probably for about 2 years on and off, and COVID hit, and everything was going wrong, and it was all going to fall off the table, and we negotiated, and it was a tough 2 years, and then facing into COVID. So it was kind of the culmination of everything, all the planets aligning, and realizing that fundamentally you have no control. And then things just sometimes happen when they're meant to happen, which was also a wonderful feeling. And yeah, I would say that was pretty big.
Do you have any other memories from that day? Like, sometimes, on big days like that, you kind of wake up and you remember what you had for breakfast. Do you remember what you had for breakfast that day?
What is it with you and
coffee.
food, mate?
Sorry.
I know, I'm trying to think. I'm not...
And there's these little moments sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, I know that Hannah, when she passed the driving test, she remembers a song that she had in the car.
Okay, do
when
you
she
remember the
first...
song?
I don't remember the song because it was her. But
What song was
I don't
Hannah's
know.
song?
Maybe there's
Yeah.
little things that you remember. Oh, actually, I remember a bird was tweeting "twit twoo" up in the trees or something.
Yeah, there was no birds. There was definitely Miley Cyrus "The Climb," though. That was the song. That's my song for that
Miley Cyrus
moment.
"The Climb."
Did you ever?
Yeah.
This is a weird question. Did you ever feel guilty about it? Was there any sense of guilt or imposter syndrome of like you didn't deserve it?
By that point, no. I knew I deserved it. I knew that we'd worked really hard for it, but it wasn't all about me. So I think if it had all been about me, but I knew I'd lent on Ed as the FD to also facilitate making it happen. I know Stefan, when he phoned me and he just was the most complimentary, and he made me cry because he'd put loads of British flags behind his face because he's obviously based in Holland. And he just said, I've watched you grow. I've watched you raise your kids. You're a single mom. I just think this is amazing. This is your business. Nothing makes me happier than, signing all of this. I think you're amazing. And that's oh God, it'll make me quite emotional. But it was that moment, which is weirdly because it mirrors probably then my worst day. So it's almost hearing someone go, I'm really proud of you. I think I see you. I see what you've done. And that's fantastic. So, yeah. So if I then go swiftly into my worst day so my father died and I was there. I drove he'd had cancer. They'd flown back, had cancer for a few years. It was my birthday. I drove to go visit him. He was at home with care. And he just deteriorated from my birthday to the next day. And there was just me. I was there the whole time. And then some of my siblings came and went. And I had my brother, who's now my commercial director. He was in Australia at the time, living there. And I had him on voice call. And I remember just having a conversation with my father. The very last conversation you'd like this was about bikes and the Tour de France. And I was not arguing. I was just, saying, why can't women be in the Tour de France? I don't get it. And he just looked at me and just went, Rebecca, because he used obviously my real name. And he's like, Rebecca, just accept that boys and girls are different. You're just different. So play to your differences, play to your strengths. It wouldn't have been a fair ride. The stamina on men is different from the stamina of women. So just accept the differences. And that was the last conversation I had with him. And it's really stuck with, and that's why the bike's on the wall, because it is just... Sometimes you're racing differently. You're not in the same race, but you can just cheer from the sidelines. And so when my father, he was in bed and he was gone, and we just had to sit there and hold his hand until his body shut down. I remember just feeling, before that I felt like there was life after this and everything, but I remember just going, he's not here anymore, he's gone. And he was a pivotal character for me in my life, because there was always that sense of like, approval, does he see me, all of those things. And I'm sure psychologists can bring that back to where I'm always chasing something. But fundamentally, when he died, like I felt a relief, like I didn't have to please anyone anymore, but I also still wanted to please him. And so a lot of what I've done subsequently, I've always thought, I hope my dad's proud of that. So when Stefan weirdly said it did feel like a moment. So they both reflect each other in lots of ways.
Yeah. It's funny what you said there about the approval from your father, because a book I read, The Way of the Superior Man, and it talks about things you can do, I guess, when you're a younger man to become the man you want to be, in a sense. And one of the chapters is about approval from your dad or your father. And he said most men feel, not necessarily trapped, but they're in this. They're always in this approval rating with their dad, and they said a lot of men have actually gone to therapy because after their dad died, they felt relief, and then they feel guilt about feeling relief, and that's because they then are unshackled from those chains, and they can be free to do what they want at that point. Yeah. I wouldn't say that's anything I've ever felt personally. I don't know if that's because of how I'm raised or because of how my dad was, but I know a lot of friends of mine have been. They just follow in their father's footsteps, and a lot of people go and do degrees and stuff to make their parents happy, not to do with what they want. And it's interesting you said that, because I just thought it's a shame that happens, and it's a shame. Would you say that fathers know that's happening as well, or do you think it's?
I think that sometimes the old school. I think my father was very old school. Women shouldn't work, and I know that was a big thing for him, and women shouldn't divorce, and I'd just gone through a divorce, and so I know I had a lot of disapproval, but that was just the way he was raised. So I think sometimes we don't break out of those cycles, but what I'm seeing now is people are, and I look at myself and my ex-husband and how fantastic a father he is, and like his girls never need to worry that they don't have his approval, that he's really cheering them on, and I'm just really grateful for the way he parents our daughters, and I think that they don't have at all the same experience that I had. So I think people are breaking out of those cycles a lot more, and are not allowing them to perpetuate. Just maybe because we're all reading way more books and we're all in touch with our feelings, I don't know, or we talk about it way more than maybe our parents and their parents did. So my father is a product of his father, and I was aware of all those cycles that came before. And so it's about just letting it go, and it's a big, big thing.
Is it something that with your kids you're aware of, that you don't want to have, because obviously how successful you've been and how well you've done, do you ever worry that you're going to put
pressure?
Subconscious, but not on purpose, it's just going to be there. Do you ever worry about that?
Oh, I know it's there because my daughter just did her A-levels and phoned, and I didn't hear from her. So I phoned her and was like, hey, she was sobbing. And I was like, are you okay? And she was like, oh, then I'm really disappointed in myself. I'm so disappointed. And I was like, okay, let's work this out. And she'd got amazing A-levels, and yet I'd felt disappointed. And she's like, I'm not going to measure up. And I was like, okay, where are we measuring? Who's the measuring stick? So I know subconsciously my children do feel that my success is somehow a bar that they have to achieve. And I'm really careful to just underpin that with, this was my journey. You have all your own journeys. Like, go fly. Your father is a completely different journey. Like, you've got a really good benchmark with us both. Just go live and go make your mistakes and go fail. And I'm really keen to show them every time I fail. I'll say, oh my goodness, I've made a mistake here. I mean, the second marriage was a mistake, and they all knew that after a week, and we all laughed about it afterwards, but after the trauma and the counselling, but then the third marriage was fine. So it's just like, you have to just be honest with my kids. So I'm hoping that I'm teaching them that it's okay to make mistakes, have your own journey. My journey's not their journey, but what they do have is a really safe place and a safe parenting to come back to. But everyone's like, we do it to our kids. Even if you think you're giving them everything actually then becomes a hindrance too, because you need them to fight for it. Like, you can't
be a perfect parent, can you? Yeah.
Everyone's going to need therapy.
Something that I liked about my parents was the fact that it was very much an open door policy. So, like, you know, growing up and trying drugs for the first time or getting drunk when you're 15, stuff like that. That was like stuff that I felt I could tell my parents about, and there wasn't necessarily judgment there, because I think I was the third son at that point, so they kind of knew what kids were about, what they were doing, what they shouldn't be doing. And obviously, like, they're not idiots, you know? Like, I go out to stay at Tom's house, and I come back the next day, and I've got, like, black eyes, and I smell of alcohol. They know what's gone on, you know? They're not idiots. They've been my age. And that they've always had a policy that whatever happened, I could talk to them about it. And I think for me, that made everything so much easier, because I didn't have to hide about anything. And I've had friends who have come from much stricter backgrounds, and I don't want to say they've fallen off the wagon because of that, but I think I've always found it easy to get back on the straight and narrow, because I've always been able to have guidance. It's always been there for me to use, and because I never, no matter what the subject was, I could ask mum and dad, what do I do, what do I think about this? And that's been imperative. And I want to make sure when I have my kids that it's an open policy book. But then at the same time, you know, if they come back and they're doing drugs at 18 and they're being idiots, like, well, how much do I leave this book open of, like, yeah, you know, just crack on with that, see how you get on. But, you know, you don't want to do this. Like, it's a hard balancing act. I
don't think you're going to get it right. I do have the same open policy. Like, we talk about everything. Their father is still religious, and so I know that I'm the one that if they need to go pick up a friend who's in trouble and needs to get back and just crash at ours, and I've got to give them paracetamol, make sure they've drank loads of fluid. Like, that's our house. Our house is a safe place, and my kids all feel that, and I'm really lucky in that regard. But you're right. But everyone's got to find their own boundaries. Yeah. So I think if you're really honest, and as a parent, if you're really honest about where your boundaries are and what you've made mistakes, you can't save your children or control them or make their choices for them. What you do is just kind of say, here's choices I've made. This worked, this didn't work. You're going to make your own choices, but just know that whatever happens, I'm here. Because they've got to go. They will make mistakes, your kids.
Yeah. They've all walked down the wrong roads to find the right one, haven't they? Do you think that, given your experiences as an entrepreneur and also working for someone else when you were younger, that you are more likely to push them into being their own boss now because of the attributes of freedom they get with it? Or do you, as long as they're happy, you don't really care what they do?
As long as they're happy, I don't care what they do.
Yeah.
Like, really. Because entrepreneur isn't for everyone. The responsibilities, there's days where you just feel the weight of the world on your shoulders. And I've got a friend that sometimes on those days, he and I, we just, because he also has his own business, we just phone and go, it's kind of lonely. And he's like, yep, I'm feeling it. And so I wouldn't. It's not all sunshine, rainbows and unicorns and driving Porsches. It's a hard graft.
20 years behind the Porsche, though, isn't it?
Yeah. So I don't know if I would encourage them to do that. But what I would say is find your passion, live your passion, because then it doesn't feel like working.
Definitely. It's really interesting when people say about loneliness when you run a company, and it's like, I have Dan, who's a business partner, and we've obviously got a team, and then I've got my fiance. It's like I'm never actually alone physically. It's rare for me. The only time I'm alone is probably when I'm in the shower. It's like that's the only time. Not with Dan, but that's probably the only point of my day, that or exercising, when I'm actually by myself. But there's bouts of loneliness because of the job, and that's weird because it's so hard to explain that to someone who isn't a business owner, that you get lonely.
But but loneliness isn't to do with proximity to people.
Right.
Loneliness is about aloneness in thought and aloneness in decision making and feeling that like you can be surrounded by people, all your best friend, like having a great time, and still feel like I feel really alone in what I'm going through, or you feel it, whatever it is. And that's men and women and entrepreneurs or not. And fundamentally, if you think about it, you're the only person you're going to go through your entire life with. Dan's not going to be around all the time. And Amber, you're not with all the time. You're the only person you're alone with your thoughts with 24/7. You've got to accept all and forgive all your mistakes. Like, it's you. And that's where the lonely kind of comes from, and that responsibility. So it's interesting. But, yeah.
How do you deal with it? Just accept it and get through it kind of thing?
No, I write about it. Like, that's
like
the
a
thing
journal?
is, so writing helps you process your thinking, challenge your thinking, reading other people's experiences, learning from everyone that you meet. And then you feel like, okay, well, I'm alone in this, but I know I'm not alone in going through this. Multiple people have gone through it. So I think that is talking to people about it. And I do have a very close friend who will just go, I'm really worried about it. And it's hard to admit, because when you're the boss, you're meant to have all the right answers, right? And you know exactly how things are going to, tough conversations go. But sometimes I'll phone him and he's just like, just breathe. Remember to breathe, right? And just go slow. I'm like, oh, yeah, thanks for that. So that you can just mentor each other as well.
Have you found it hard to, when good things happen in your life or in your business, that you find it hard to think, or just sit there and think, oh, that's great. I'm really proud of myself for doing that. Because, for example, with us or with me, we had our branding put on the side of the building a few weeks ago. And
it looks lovely.
Thank you. But there was probably 10 seconds of awesome. And the next thing was I need to go send that email now. It's I don't know if it's choice, but I just don't.
Take the time.
I find it hard to sit there in gratitude. Not that I'm unhappy. I'm very grateful for what's happened. I'm very happy with what's happened. But, everyone's celebrate those small wins. And it's I just don't. I don't celebrate the small wins, and I know that's not necessarily a good thing. But have you found that by celebrating the small? Have you gone out your way to do so?
Why don't you celebrate the small wins? Why?
It's not that I don't celebrate them. I'm just thinking about. I think I'm just so results driven. Okay. So the results there is okay, what's the next result? And I just instantly go into that, and I think I get a lot of joy from that. So it's not like I need to celebrate the little wins. But because of how busy it gets to be a business owner, have you found yourself going out your way to make sure you celebrate them, is what I'm trying to say? Or do you just, something happens, you're like, great, I'll spend 10 minutes thinking about this, I'm happy, and then on to the next thing? Or is it something you have to actually set time aside for?
I think I'm like you. I think there's always something else. That's the story on the climb. It is about the climb. It's not about getting to the summit. The summit's like, yep, top of the mountain. I can see another mountain I need to climb. Great, boots on, let's go climb. I enjoy the process.
Yeah.
So if you're the same and you get the joy in doing, I'm exactly the same. I don't sit there.
I know it's
the
cheesy.
Doing.
It's the journey, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the climb.
Yeah.
Miley.
That is the fun part. It's the process. And Gary Vaynerchuk spoke about that and being a business owner. He's like, do not become a business owner because you want to make money, because you want to have the Porsche or the big house. It's you have to love the process. And if you don't love the process, it's not for you.
Yeah. I love the challenge. What's weird is that for me, the joy is in the challenge. So if I have a challenging day and I'm exhausted at the end of it, I'll go, what a good day. I actually swear, but I go, what a good day. It's brilliant. I love the challenge. And that's why I do it. I know that that's where my joy is. It's not in the end result. That's great. That's what should come when I've done all the hard work. But the challenge.
Do you find it hard to celebrate the little wins, Dan? Is that something that you relate to or not at all?
Can you remember your last little win, Dan?
For me, it's when a project's done, I'm more relieved. I'm all right, that one's done, which I guess is kind of a win, because I'm I've been working on this, this product, this video, this project for 4 weeks. We've done a lot of pre-production, and I know how much effort everyone's put into it. And then when it's sent and it's signed off, then it's and you can breathe. So I don't know if it's a win. I think it's more of we've accomplished that, and now it's on to something else. Yeah, I don't know. When you say you only sit back and look at it for 10 seconds, I'm kind of like, yeah, after 10 seconds, I'm done. Like, I don't need to sit and look at it for like 10 minutes and think, oh, bloody hell, I've done a great job here.
I know.
It's like onto something else. Like you say, I think that's just I think it's a human instinct to be like that.
I don't want to get lost in the sauce.
No.
It's we're not done.
Yeah, like
keep
when
going.
but that's the thing is, are you ever done?
When is it done? Yeah.
Exactly.
Someone asked me when I was going to retire. I was like, I don't think I'll ever retire because I just love what I do.
Yeah.
So what's done look like? What's that result that you sit back and go, okay, that's it. Yeah, job done. No, if there are people still to mentor and coach and invest in, I'm never done.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I remember when we first started, the only thing I could think of is like when we first started the company, we were paying ourselves peanuts. And it's not like we've paid ourselves much more since then. But like I remember being back then thinking, if my life would be so much better if I was just getting £200 more a month just to help with those bills. And it was like, that's all I could think of. And then it happens, and it's like, and now I think back and look back and I'm like, oh yeah, that happened. And I don't have that worry anymore, or that stress. And I think as I've gone through it, it's just become more
taken for granted, or is it given, that's what the results are?
I don't want to admit it, but I think it is a bit more taken for granted. That I think I've just, you accept these things that have happened, and now it's like, okay, well, you think about the next problem in a sense, like what is there now to focus on? But I think so. There's only so much you can process in a day, right? So.
But maybe is that what makes you a better entrepreneur, is you don't just sit there and rest on your laurels, and you're not just like, great result, I'm going to sit and just really soak all this in. Because entrepreneur, like it is, you just are always driving. And if that isn't what motivates you, I think you just get sucked up in a whirlwind of like, aren't I wonderful?
Mm-hmm. Have you seen that happen to people?
Yeah, and I don't think they're in business right now, but yeah.
Do you think that's the reason?
Because you've got to keep looking forward. The world is changing. Adapt. Like that's the thing, is adapting. I look at loads of businesses that have failed during the last 2 years and then some, and everyone just gets a little bit like, I don't know, feet on the table sort of attitude, and like, oh wow, aren't I amazing? I've done that, and I'm like, well, it's never one person; it's a team, and you're only as good as your last success. So, like, you don't look back and go, oh, I did all of this. Like, I don't think Olympic, but I've done all of these things. It's where are you now? What's your training program like now? How did you start your day? That I've lived very present, so I don't look back and go, ooh, look at what I've accomplished. I go, okay, so what's today like? What have I done today? Like, yeah.
Are you happy with where you're at currently?
100%. 117%. I like to use non-plausible round numbers.
Okay, good. So you're really happy in terms of who you are, your business, your current life situation. Everything's really good.
I will always be happy, even if there are things going wrong in my life, and there always are. So I believe in being happy enough, because happy means that I'm always going to be pushing forward. So yeah, I'm happy because I choose to be. Mm-hmm. Is everything perfect? Wasn't your question, but if you ask me, I would say no, it's not. But I am happy.
That's awesome.
Can you tell us a bit about your trips to China?
Sure.
I want to know about those.
There's some funny ones.
First time you went to China, were you taken back by it? What happened?
Yeah, I was taken back by it.
And tell us why you went there as well.
What year did you go?
Be cool to just...
It was probably before you were born. No, it wasn't. So I've been going to China probably for 16 years. And the first time I went, I didn't know what to expect. Longest plane journey in economy, folded up. And then just you get off the plane and it's like back then it's like a completely different world. And the food is what I really struggled with. Not recognizing anything, and people are so hospitable, and they bring this whole table would be full of food, and they expect you to eat it. And that one was a tough one because I didn't recognize anything, and then I was just really ill. Mm-hmm. But people are fantastic, and so I was obviously over there sourcing products because we manufacture with factories over there. And so yeah, it was factory owners and walking through factories, meeting people. I didn't know the language then. I've been able to pick some of it up, enough to get away with for sure, and they appreciate when I kill their language for them. They acknowledge that, which is sweet. But yeah, it's fantastic. So traveling in China, it takes an hour to get anywhere, even 10 miles. when you're in Shanghai or Ningbo or any of those places, it's just traffic's intense. The volume of people, the volume of everything is just something I'd never experienced before. Yeah, and over the years now, I'm very adept to it. I travel on my own. I never used to, but now I can travel on my own and get across and jump into taxi and feel very confident and comfortable in that country. And I know exactly what I'm ordering when I'm at KFC.
What would you say is the like the main differences in culture of government over there compared to here? Like, obviously, you know, people slate the government here willy-nilly. Is it the same over there? Are they a bit more careful? Because obviously
I don't think anyone slates the government over there.
Right.
You're not allowed to, and everyone is very complimentary of the way the country is run. Obviously, it's a communist country, and so choices are very limited. Your life choices, everything is very linear. Kids, obviously the single child policy, those children have now been fully educated and they don't want to work in factories. So China actually has quite an economic problem, because by becoming a single child family, these two parents that usually are both earning money, because it's grandparents that raise the children, have raised these very singular human beings that are driven to earn money, and they don't want to work for it. They want other people to work for it. So there is a labor force issue in China that everyone's really aware of, and it's just interesting watching how their culture manages people in that volume. But everyone is, I don't know, they just are very compliant, which is not my nature.
Yeah.
So I found that very interesting.
Was it intimidating? Did it make you...
If you're in Taiwan, it is, and they say that there's like these loud noises come on, and they're saying, "Oh no, everyone black out." I remember being in Taiwan a couple of times, because the Chinese used to kind of try and send things that way. But yeah, I think Taiwanese culture is very different, and then in China, it's just locked down. But I remember going to Hong Kong before it got handed back, and then after it's handed back, and again, Hong Kong's really changing that dynamic. Yeah, with people and freedoms and freedom of speech, probably, and religion as well.
Has travelling to these countries made you happy where you're from?
I always travelled. So when I was younger, I lived in Turkey because my father was a civil engineer. So I got to live amongst different cultures, different people from a very young age. Father was in Pakistan and India and New Zealand. So I've always travelled and been open to different cultures. And I think that really helped me be less insular and less like Britain's the only place on the planet that I love. I love the world. I just would travel all the time if it wasn't difficult to get on a plane. Am I grateful to be British? I mean, I love where we live. I don't think we realise how lucky we are because of our freedoms. And I know that my children would argue, because they right now feel so angry about what's the way the world is going and the way the country is run, and we'll have very heated conversations because there's an open door, and we'll disagree. And again, I go, is that because of the way I was raised or the era I was raised in? But my children are just really discontent with how this country has been run and how everything is evolving. And it'll be interesting to see what they do with the country, that whole generation, as they get older, because they're very opinionated and they've got very strong mindset on the environment, on the economy, about being fairer,
leadership,
and honesty and transparency.
Well, that's needed more than ever right now, though, isn't it? Because we seem to lying politicians seems to be the new norm.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and we seem to all accept it and not hold anyone accountable.
The
whereas
problem,
the younger generation are like, no, no, no. So it'll be very interesting.
Do you think your kids are way more passionate about politics than you were at their age?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very more informed.
Yeah.
Like, they read so much more than I ever read.
Is that because of social media, do you think? I think
they're on Reddit.
Reddit, yeah.
Maybe it's Reddit, but it's not. So I wouldn't say it's like an Instagram thing. They go to the websites. They are really informed and read the news and go find information. So and maybe that's just my children, but they definitely are not Instagram, Facebook people at all. They're kind of anti those things. They're a little bit anti-establishment, but they just love learning. And my oldest son, he graduated and he did IT and computer gaming and design, and so he like computers. He's a little bit part Borg, he assimilated into the Matrix sort of thing. So, but he's interesting talking to him because he will have 3 screens and he's got like his work, and he'll have news, and he'll have podcasts, and he's like, how can you take all of that in?
Yeah.
That must kill your brain. But yeah, strange.
I'm going to throw you on the spot again because we should have emailed this to you ahead of time.
Oh.
Do you have a question for Dan and I?
They could be separate too.
Oh, they can.
Dan or I?
Dan,
Ooh,
each of you, what are your 3 core values as human beings?
You
How
go
do you
first, Dan.
define your values? Ooh.
Do we do one at a time? That gives us time to think.
All right.
Yeah.
'Cause I might need that.
3 on the spot.
Yeah. A core value would be treat other people how you would like to be treated. Yeah, absolutely. I 100% believe in that, and I think, I just sometimes, in life when you say the wrong thing to someone or under your breath you say something and you're like, why did I just say that? I'm like such an idiot. And then that always brings it back to that value, which I like to think about. I think it's important to be nice to people, and
Dan's the good cop in the relationship.
Yeah,
You couldn't tell.
kind of. Yeah,
The sweeter soul.
I think about stuff too much sometimes, and
Just enough. You probably think about it
just enough. Yeah, I think about stuff just enough sometimes.
Yeah.
That should be on your business card.
It's changed.
Dan Pett, I think about stuff just enough.
Just enough.
Nice to meet you.
3. That's 2 more. I've got 2 more to go.
Yeah.
Loyalty.
Okay.
I think loyalty. I know that's cheesy, but I guess it's not necessarily that I love loyalty. I just hate what it produces when it's not there. I think that's a better way of looking at it. Whether that's in relationships or business or friendship and stuff like that. Not that I'd ever want someone to choose me over someone else, but I think it's more of a... Actually, is loyalty that important to me on reflection, Dan? Yeah, we'll throw it. We're
going to keep that one.
Yeah.
We're going to keep that one.
Nice.
Go on, hit your second then.
Values. Second one.
This is difficult.
It is difficult.
Yeah.
My second one would be positive mental attitude. Would that be a value?
I think positivity.
Yeah, positivity.
Yeah.
Well, when I was growing
Thinking.
up, I tend to not get ill very often.
I can't believe you're going into this.
And when someone else is getting ill, or
Me,
mainly Ben, I always say it's about it's in your head.
In your head.
You're not getting ill. You're just telling yourself you're getting ill. So by having a positive mental attitude, you're telling yourself you're not going to get ill. You don't need to take those paracetamol tablets. I mean, I've had hangovers that are horrible, but I just try not to. This is kind of like diverting from this, but I try not to take medication for stuff because I like to think that I can just get over it
Your
by
body
myself.
knows what to do.
And I can handle it via my PMA.
Yeah.
My positive mental attitude.
until you get COVID.
Yeah, well, I couldn't help that, could I?
No.
And
actually, how you rode it out.
Yeah.
Were you positive
Exactly.
during the
It was
process?
Boxing Day. I took one for the team. Led up in bed. So, yeah, that's my second one.
Okay. That's good.
Can I have the same one?
No.
Well, you told me you didn't have it.
Yeah.
I would say I love the core value of looking for the good in things. I think it's really. I think you can. It's really easy to go down two separate paths, and I can see on a really simple level how people get into difficulty with their mental health on a very simple. There's so many complications to it, but it is. For me, I think the reason I've never really got too down about stuff is because I, for whatever reason, tend to tell myself good things about myself and good attributions about myself more than bad attributions. Like, I know my weaknesses, but I don't really think about them that often. I like to think that, if someone fucks me over, I'll let them know about it, and I like that about myself, and I like the fact that I'm not a pushover in that sense, but equally, if I've done something wrong, I know that I need to lay down and take it. I think I like that about myself. What I like about myself is that I like stuff about myself.
That's good.
I should put that on my business card.
Yeah. We've just
Nice.
redesigned both your business cards.
Yes.
This is exciting.
Our free core value. My third one. I don't even. Are these even value? Are my ones even values? Maybe they're just more like lessons or things that I've
No,
learned.
the way your values, as in like who you are, how you are are the values. So yeah.
My third one
Go.
is if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah.
Would that be a value? So we'll use that.
Ask.
When I was growing up, I was playing ice hockey and I was doing a lot of sport, and I always wanted to train up and play with the better teams and develop myself. And it always felt like I was the person who was never getting chosen, because the other people who were playing were, I don't know, kissing arse a bit better than I was, and I wasn't really into that. So I would always drive home. My mum she would always be like, you just need to go up to the coach and just see if you can get into training with them. And she'd always tell me that if you don't ask, you don't get. Yeah. And I think that you can take that and use that in so many different situations. Like, are you going to have that last bit of hummus? Because I'm going to have it if you don't.
Yeah.
If you don't ask, you don't get it. So.
And you always get that hummus,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, secure the hummus.
Secure the hummus. another business card detail. Core value, I guess I have to speak about the one that's tattooed on my arm.
Nice.
That was from another book I read, not the Lean book that you mentioned earlier, but it's about, again, I think it's from The Way of the Superior Man, and it's about how to be more in tune with yourself. And it talks about there's waves of things that come into your life, and you need to. I think it's if you're on if life is, oh my god, I'm getting so much word diarrhea here. If life is a wave and you're riding it on a surfboard, you don't lean back, and you shouldn't just be upright. You should lean into the wave, lean into the surfboard, and ride it out. And it talks about things like if you're scared to doing something, you should lean into that. If there's something that scares you or intimidates you, lean into that. And I think that's pushed me into do stuff that probably a lot of the reason why we're here and we have a business is because I leaned into stuff that scared me. And I remember when we first started, I used to be worried about I wasn't necessarily unpopular at school, but equally wasn't popular. I felt I was just somewhere in the middle. And I remember when we first started the company, we were putting videos out, and I was worrying about what the popular kids at school 8 years ago would think about it. And I remember having those thoughts and thinking, who the fuck cares? They're really nice people, but equally, fuck them. Like, why should I give a fuck what they think? And I think that this book, leaning into that, of just like, look, that scares you, that means you have to do it then. That means you have to go for it now. And there's been loads of other stuff like that. And it's actually got to the point now where it's rare to feel that emotion anymore, that I have to lean into something, almost like I've conditioned myself to that's now a normal emotion. And I think that's where a lot of my self-assurance comes from, is the fact that once something scares me, I have to do it. I mean, the idea of running 100k terrifies me, but I'm not going to lean into that.
No, because that's the legs. That. Yeah, you can choose not to lean in. It's not that it doesn't fare you, it's just your legs might fall off. I need my legs.
And I think I like that so much because it got me out of some holes when I was younger, or some pits, and I liked it so much I tattooed on myself. And Dan even chose the font on Photoshop for me, and
it's a great font. Which font is it?
Is it Avenue?
I think it's Avenue. Yeah,
that's one of my favourite fonts.
It's a great font.
Oh, well, there we go, everyone.
It's like my business font.
There we go.
I might have to get the same tattoo.
I can put you in touch with the tattoo artist if you like.
I'll be like that font.
Should we do your 3 core values?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to go with lean in as I'm going to use. I have a different way of expressing it because I've just dive in, be adventurous. That's definitely one of my values. Exactly how you describe it. Now it's habit. Now you can't. People have to pull me back. I'm I would much rather regret having done something. I will never ever have the regret. What if ever? I will always do it. So definitely do it. Damn it. Kindness, absolutely. I remember someone once saying that you shouldn't take business personally because it's not about taking it personally, and don't be kind to everyone because they'll just fuck you over. And I don't believe that. It's
so untrue.
Yeah, I don't believe it. I think you can be kind. It's someone else's choice if they choose to abuse it, whatever. I don't mind. They do not get to change me. So I choose to be kind, and I love kindness in others. And then my third value, I probably got 5, but the third one that I'm going to say is probably always learning. I would say that's the other thing people would say, is that I'm a perpetual learner. It's a key value in my life. Learn from every situation, learn from every person, learn from every book. Just voraciously know that I don't know everything. And I'm just going to soak it all in. That's definitely one of my core values.
It's humbling, isn't it, when you think like that?
Yeah, it's also exciting. Because every day, I learn something new.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
I think that's a nice way to round off the podcast.
What a lovely way.
Becks, thank you for being our first guest
No, thank you.
Through the Window.
I like that you kept looking up there just so you could read the words from the screen.
No idea what you're talking about. I knew that off by heart.
Is that on your business card too?
You're going to have so many variations of business cards. Where can people find you? What's if people want to get in contact with you for whatever reason, what's the best way? Is it email?
We're not
Instagram?
talking about Tinder or anything. No. It's my business is A2V.com. It's 3 letters, 2 letters and a number. So yeah, Becks at A2V.com. You can find it on LinkedIn. I'm super easy, like Becks Beer. It's kind of a brand, but it's me more than a beer. So yeah, that's where you find me.